So, it's Valentine's Day, which means that I, a completely normal adult human, am thinking a completely normal amount about the Muppets. In my defense, though, the Muppets have been the topic du jour in online discourse of late. The recent revival of their long-running show in a one-off special starring Sabrina Carpenter has received rave reviews. Right now, the people are clamoring for more felt-flapping Muppetational variety show shenanigans. The Muppets are back like they never left. But that's just it. They did leave. Multiple times over. For years, our televisions and cinemas have been bereft of Muppets in the midst of a great Muppet drought only punctuated by the briefest of reprieves. A streaming special here, a social media clip there. The old Muppet studio was shut down and bought out, once in fiction and then again in reality. Yet, in spite of all the time that's passed, the fondness people feel for this colorful cast of characters clearly hasn't faded. And all this love for the Muppets of late has me pondering a very important question. Who is the most important Muppet of all time? Okay, walk with me here. Ever since Disney started getting involved with the Muppets, you could argue as far back as Muppets Tonight on ABC in the late 90s, it's like the studio has absolutely no idea what to do with them. It's almost like, this entire time, something has just been off. The Muppets 2011, Muppets Most Wanted, that Muppet 30 Rock The Office knockoff that I actually kind of liked back in middle school, Muppets Now, The Electric Mayhem Show, Muppets Haunted Mansion. There's been a missing piece of the Muppet formula, something preventing them from returning to their rightful status as pop culture juggernauts. Now, you might argue that the missing piece of the puzzle was a producer who understood the essence of the Muppets and their generational appeal, like Seth Rogen, or a director who could translate that quintessential classical formula into the contemporary zeitgeist without sacrificing that quintessentially Muppet charm, like Alex Timbers. And you might be right about that. But here's the thing. Muppet fans are kind of like K-pop stans in that we all think our bias should be playing a bigger role in the show. I believe there's a criminally underrated Muppet who was once a pivotal part of the positioning and promotion of the show, and whose systematic exclusion is directly responsible for the floundering of the franchise in the 21st century. And I believe that this Muppet, if restored to its rightful place in the show, has the potential to save the Muppets. For real this time. So, without further ado, this is the search for the most important Muppet. Now, of course, if the average person off the street asked me who the most important member of the Muppet cast might be, I would probably force a laugh and say that Kermit is pretty neat. And it's true, Kermit is pretty neat. He's the show's de facto main character since he's the host out on stage and the director behind the curtain, and our perception of his ridiculous friends is diffused through his neuroticism. In fact, if your family had an old enough copy of Sesame Street on tape, you could even see him interacting with the family-friendly educational crowd of Muppet folk. There's just something about that frog. But it's not just the voice. What so many people don't see, especially in the wake of current Frog performer Matt Vogel's casting, is that the true soul of the character resides in the tiny ticks, the micro fluctuations in expression, and dexterous flourishes with a given puppeteer's digits. Kermit is unique compared to the rest of his compatriots in that his head, rather than being sculpted of a more rigid foam form, is fully fashioned from pliable felt that conforms to the contours of the hand that's moving him. He's the most expressive Muppet of the entire cast, which is what enables him to hit all of those disgruntled little scrunches and dour, pucker-faced pouts every time he's upset. This, combined with Jim's eternally wry demeanor, puts him in the perfect position to play the foil in every interaction foisted upon him. And that's precisely why we have to go one layer deeper in order to uncover the most important member of the Muppet Show. Because you see, while Kermit's star power and fame are indisputable, it's also indisputably true that he works best as a reflection of the talent around him. As the head of his own self-titled workshop, Jim and his show gave his friends a conduit for their creativity, platforming their personalities and performances. Despite being the main character, both Kermit and Jim were happiest backstage, watching the people they loved do what they did best. Throughout the history of The Muppet Show, its breakout stars became beloved characters as their performers sharpened their skills and pitted their personalities against some iteration of their relationship with the man himself. Dave Goelz and Jim led to Gonzo and Kermit, Richard Hunt and Jim led to Statler and Waldorf. And then, of course, there was Jim and Frank Oz.
You're an artificial bear. You're telling me I have foam rubber? Have you ever seen a bear with a magenta nose? I got a news flash for you, kid. What? Frog, you hurt me, I'm gonna have to hurt you. You ready for this?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
You got a wire on your arm. What? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it.
It's hard not to wax poetic about the bond these two shared. So many iconic Muppet duos are built on Jim and Frank's dynamic. Kermit and Fozzie, Bert and Ernie, even on Sesame Street when there was a need for a family-friendly foil for Kermit, traveling salesman Grover or perpetually snackish menace Cookie Monster would show up to pester him. Part of what makes The Muppet Show so special is Henson's performance as the ultimate straight man, who's just as crazy as the cast he's been cast opposite. And of all the contentious personalities the Frog has been tasked with wrangling, one stands out among the rest.
What are you gonna do? I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Piggy. I'm going to fire you. Piggy, you are fired. You are fired. Piggy, you are fired. Fired.
Miss Piggy is your favorite Muppet's favorite Muppet. Mostly because if they didn't say that upon being asked, she would karate chop them in the larynx and break their non-existent windpipe. Perhaps more so than any other Muppet, she was the perfect fit for the variety show formula that captured lightning in a bottle. A prima donna pig with this guttural, melodic voice who suffers from regular delusions of grandeur and around whom the whole world tilts on its axis. She could swoon over the show's strapping guest stars and feud with its female performers who tried to put the moves on her frog. She is histrionic and hysterical, and yet, over the course of the show's original run, she became everything she always claimed she was from the very start. You listen to other small-time actresses like Emma Stone and Jennifer Lawrence wax poetic about Miss Piggy, and you realize her influence is completely legitimate. There's nothing fictitious about it. In an industry and a society that so frequently forces sharp corners and jagged edges to be sanded smooth off our conception of womanhood, contracting and commodifying the rules and roles of gendered presentation and performance, Miss Piggy makes no apologies and takes no prisoners. She's the genuine article, a real, honest-to-goodness diva. Plus, if you needed any more evidence of how deeply entrenched her stylistic sensibilities are in contemporary culture, every day on Twitter someone's uncovering a new outfit Sabrina stole from Miss Piggy's closet. You know, I really think she's got a case here. And not just because the Disney legal team has her back, either. Has someone called Legal Eagle about this? The poor dude's been in the thresher for the last year. He could use a fun one. And hey, if he doesn't have the time to review Miss Piggy's impending lawsuit for a video since he's, grappling with the complete and total annihilation of the rule of law in his home country, we could always have Sam the Eagle fill in for him. Or maybe Joe the Legal Weasel. We haven't heard from him in a while. And speaking of the short, stout arm of the law, after consulting with my lawyer, I have been duly advised to inform you that Miss Piggy is obviously the most important Muppet to the current incarnation of the Muppet Show. However, because Miss Piggy is obviously so youthful and vivacious, she didn't make her official Muppet Show debut until the very first episode of the show proper, rising from the humble ranks of the chorus line to superstardom, which means that due to her lack of a marquee role in the initial Muppet Show pilots, on an unfortunate and unavoidable technicality, Miss Piggy has been eliminated from contention as the Muppet with the greatest historical importance. I will not be taking questions at this time and will consequently prostrate myself to offer the most profuse of my apologies to Miss Piggy herself, in the hopes that she might forgive me for the snub necessary for this very silly framing device to actually function. But with the obvious and rightful frontrunner of Miss Piggy out of the running as the most important Muppet of all time on a surprise semantic quibble, our list rapidly descends into complete and total anarchy. What Muppet could possibly fit the bill as a previously important member of the cast who was pivotal to the Muppets getting a chance at their own show in the first place? In the canonical narrative of the show, Scooter has a pretty good claim on the title of Most Important Muppet, as his uncle owns the theater where the Muppets perform. But outside of Muppet kayfabe, Scooter didn't make his debut until the 6th episode of the first season. Plus, he was a tech bro that one time, which is an unforgivable crime against humanity. At least his class traitor twin sister was cool. Crazy Harry, who was actually originally called Crazy Donald for some reason, might be a promising candidate. He's featured front and center in one of the early Muppet Show pilots, The Muppet Show Sex and Violence, and his explosive sense of humor so perfectly encapsulates the weird blend of stylistic influences Henson and company became beloved for. But even if the Muppets do need more explosions nowadays, Crazy Harry was a bit player at best, and he's already been brought back for the revival in a fan-favorite slot during a Sabrina Carpenter number. Well, what about Wilkins and Wonkins then? After all, as some of the very earliest Muppets on TV, their commercials helped to keep the lights on in the workshop for Henson and company while they pursued their creative passions. But neither Wilkins nor Wonkins ever migrated out of the realm of advertising to the Muppet Show proper, and they weren't the inspiration for any of the mainline Muppets like the internet always seems to think. Beautiful Day Monster seems to have the best of both worlds in that regard. He not only helped out in the ad department by shilling for wheels, flutes, and crowns, but he also made several talk show segments that served to put the Muppets as performers in front of the public eye. But despite his rotating list of appearances, he's such an inconsequential background figure that he doesn't even have an actual name. And then there's Ralph.
Hey, Ralph.
Hey! Son of a bitch!
Arguably the truest expression of Jim's creative soul, long before Kermit, he was the original breakout star from the Muppets. The dog on the Jimmy Dean Show who made Henson's lovable troupe a household name. He moved merchandise and sold commercial slots. He was the first puppet to become more than just a walking, talking advertisement. He was a character with cross-demographic appeal, the first of the Muppets to make the talk show rounds that would be instrumental in demonstrating their commercial viability to the network. And for the entire duration of the Muppet Show's run, he's been quietly and obediently tickling the ivories at his own leisurely pace, playing second fiddle to his friends, just there to support them however he can. If any singular Muppet, objectively speaking, really, truly deserves to be deemed the most important of all time, it would be him. But if you even tried to bestow that title upon Rolf, he'd probably be too doggone humble to ever accept it.
Oh, buy us, oh, buy us, oh, buy us, we beg. For if you don't buy us, we'll bite you in the leg.
Now, hold on. What kind of an attitude is that?
So buy us
At once.
a bundle of charms.
And if you don't buy us, we'll break both your arms.
Okay, that's enough.
Now, do you understand why the search for the most important Muppet is so maddening? See, if the average person off the street asked me who the most important member of the Muppet cast might be, I would probably force a laugh and say that Kermit is pretty neat. But that's only because simmering deep down beneath the surface of my subconscious is a quantity of knowledge about the Muppets that your average adult human would consider abnormal. Truly, deeply abnormal. And if you poke and prod at me for long enough, it all comes spilling out. It's too late for you to go back now, though. You want to know how deep this rabbit hole really goes? You want to find out just how much esoteric puppet knowledge lurks deep beneath the surface of the iceberg? You really want to know who the objectively most important Muppet of all time is? Fine. This lovable Muppet and the hero of our Muppet story began his life as a background character in a backdoor pilot. Introduced as a blue furry hench monster of an indeterminate species in the 1970 made-for-TV special, The Great Santa Claus Switch, he rose to a role of prominence on The Muppet Show through a series of musical numbers that rapidly endeared him to the audience despite his unusual appearance. He has a soft-spoken, scratchy little voice, and is best remembered for the affections he harbors for an entirely different species. The most important Muppet of all time, and the missing piece in the modern Muppet Show puzzle is Thog. It's Thog. Oh, sorry. Were you expecting me to say Gonzo? Because Gonzo might be the most important Muppet of all time. No member of the core cast better exemplifies the Muppet philosophy of found family and finding your truest self through performance. Gonzo is Gonzo. They're a weird little guy, and their art is even weirder. The only person it even makes sense to is Gonzo, but he doesn't care what you think. He's the only main Muppet to never trade hands. Ever since his creation, he's been performed by the one and only Dave Goelz. You literally cannot beat that in terms of sheer longevity and legacy. Despite the bombastic, bigger-than-life facade they perform on stage, nestled deep within the core of Gonzo as a character is this kernel of quiet self-doubt and loneliness that's all Goelz' own. Gonzo is whatever. Literally, he loves loudly and lives unapologetically, a reflection of the weird and queer friends and family Goelz made through the show. He's the Muppetiest of all the Muppets, and that's okay, because these are his people, and this is where he belongs. So yes, if there were any sort of objective standards that could be applied here, Gonzo might be the real most important Muppet of all time, the Muppet MVP. But in case you hadn't somehow figured it out by now, this entire video is just an elaborate excuse for me to talk about my favorite Muppet glup shitto. This is my channel, I get to make the rules, and what I say goes. Gonzo is brilliant, but I like Thog. I can't really explain why, I just do. So I'm going to talk about Thog now. As stated previously, Thog was originally created for the 1970 made-for-TV Christmas special, The Great Santa Claus Switch, as a henchman for the evil wizard Cosmo scam. He was originally designed by Jim Henson himself, with the puppet based on those early design sketches built by Don Salin. At 9.5 feet tall, Thog, performed by Muppet regular and Robin the Frog performer Jerry Nelson, shares a similar predicament to other full-body characters like Big Bird, in that one of the performer's arms are required to operate his mouth and ear flapping function, hence why one of the puppet's arms remains perpetually limp. In his debut, he appeared alongside a similarly massive monster that served as his counterpart named Fig, a perfidious and odious cretin whom I hate with every fiber of my being. Whereas Thog is full of joy and wonder and whimsy in his big blue heart, Fig is an aimless tool of malice and misery, and I, for one, am delighted that we never have to see or talk about him ever again. The Great Santa Claus Switch never did become a Christmas classic, but in addition to putting food on the table in the workshop, it still ended up creating two unexpected stars for the company in Gonzo and Thog. But it might surprise you to learn that the latter was vastly more popular than the former to begin with. While Gonzo only made sporadic background appearances while Dave Goelz was still workshopping and refining his character, Jerry Nelson's Thog was immediately beloved by audiences the nation over upon his debut, and he was booking gigs left and right. In 1971, Thog appeared for an interview on The Dick Cavett Show, which gave us one of the funniest possible late-night show promo clips to announce his arrival.
Tonight, Dick's special guests are Jim Henson with the Muppets, Big Bird, Bert and Ernie, Grover, Kermit, Ralph, Phenomena, Oscar, Thog.
There was just something about Thog's sweet yet dopey demeanor juxtaposed with his hulking stature that charmed the entire country. Immediately after Dick Cavett, he was whisked away to join Nancy Sinatra's stage-performing retinue, then secured himself a sizable slot in a dance number opposite the Julie Andrews, yes, that Julie Andrews, on her self-titled show. Thogomania was real, and the world was in a frenzy for that big blue galoot. His regular television appearances culminated in the primetime marquee slot of the official Muppet Show pilot episode, The Muppet Valentine Show, starring Mia Farrow. In this extended dance number, entitled Real Live Girl, Thog vents his frustrations about his fat chud incel life, but, like in a lovable and endearing way, okay?
Pardon me, miss, but I've never done this with a real live girl.
Mia Farrow's wearing this big poofy gown. They twirl around awkwardly. She kisses him on the cheek and his ears do that floppy thing. It's the centerpiece of the entire episode. And to be honest with you, I truly cannot decide who I am more jealous of here. I mean, what does Thog even see in her? What does Mia Farrow have that I don't? Besides a uterus, I guess. Still, this is quite frankly insane to me. I cannot even fathom the fact that Thog was a big enough name from his guest spots on the late night talk show circuit that they could just name drop him like this out of the blue, tee him up for a number with one of the biggest stars on screen at that time, and expect everyone to already know exactly who he was.
Hey Mia, this just came for you. I think it's from Thog.
Thog? Oh, Thog, there you are.
We used to live in a proper country, A country where every man, woman, child, frog, dog, bear, chicken, pig, thing, and, whatever knew who Thog was. If the 70s got exactly one thing right in America, and only that one thing, it was this. And that's what we should be striving to return to. There are several other special guest segments in the Muppet Valentine Show, but it was this musical number that served as the model for the way the show would integrate its celebrity hosts going forward. Without Thog and Mia Farrow's delightfully off-kilter waltz, there's no Liza Minnelli dancing her iconic Copacabana number with the Mutations, which is genuinely one of the great renditions of that song. There's no glorious show tune medley with Gene Kelly and the entire cast of the show, or Dave Grohl and Animal dueling on the drums. Without Thog and Mia Farrow's saccharine yet chaste kiss, there's no Miss Piggy and Sabrina Carpenter age gap Yuri duet. There's a very real and very surreal case to be made that Thog's runaway success was the blueprint for the entire show that would follow in his oversized blue footsteps. In 1976, The Muppet Show would officially premiere and the rest would be history. Thog would continue to feature prominently in several Muppet Show numbers opposite the likes of legendary songwriter Paul Williams, Alice Cooper, Bernadette Peters, Loretta Swit, and more, but after the heyday of his lightning-in-a-bottle popularity began to fade, his season 1 streak of consecutive appearances gradually declined until he was a supporting player at best. Rather than continuing to rattle off Thog's history at you in chronological order like I'm just reading straight down the Muppet Wiki, though, I'm going to recap the rest of his career in the form of a series of very fun facts. They are fun, and you're going to enjoy them.
Did you know that?
Did you know that Thog possesses the ability to change the size of his body at will, allowing him to grow to kaiju-sized proportions? We get our first indication of this during the 5th and final season of The Muppet Show in I Feel the Earth Move Under My Feet, where Thog grows to the height of a literal mound due to the use of miniatures and compositing. However, it isn't the last time that the big blue galoot suddenly and inexplicably grows or shrinks. Did you know that the original Thog puppet was destroyed due to decay and had to be rebuilt? For the 2011 Muppet movie Legacy sequel/soft reboot, he was reconstructed by Jim Krupa at around the 12-foot mark, a whole head taller than his original 9.5-foot stature. His pelt was changed to have a deeper, more vibrant cyan twinge, and his snout became wider and flatter than the original point of his beak. This was both because Krupa lacked references for the puppet's original height, but also appears to be mostly for the sake of this one throwaway gag where he has to squeeze into Rashida Jones's office and looks comically massive in comparison to the rest of the Muppets. However, we later see that Thog has trouble fitting through the arches for the live performance of the show's iconic intro scene. So, for the 2026 reboot, they had to get a little creative. According to an interview conducted between current Thog performer Paul McGuinness and Shane Keating, operator of the official Muppet Wiki Tumblr, Thog's segment in the new intro was recorded on a green screen, then composited back into the previously filmed plates, allowing him to stand at his original 9-foot height despite the current puppet still being over a full story tall. This adds further credibility to the theory that Thog can shift in size at will, much like Luke Skywalker. Did you know that there have been 5 different Thog performers? Jerry Nelson, the original, is the only one who's ever done the Thog voice, but during the Muppet Show, former Kermit Steve Whitmire would sometimes substitute in as Thog's body actor. Following the rebuild, Thog has been performed by 3 different actors: Tyler Bunch in the Muppets 2011, Ollie Taylor in Muppets Most Wanted, and the aforementioned Paul McGuinness in the Sabrina Carpenter special. Thog has 0 spoken lines of dialogue since Nelson's departure from the role, however. Did you know that the 2 greatest Muppets of all time, Thog and Gonzo the Great, may actually be related? This is a pet conspiracy theory of mine, but since they were both created as hench creatures for the same Muppet Christmas special, and both toiled as servants under Cosmo's scam, it's possible they could descend from the very same species, initially both called Fraggles before that name was repurposed for Fraggle Rock. They do share a similar bluish hue and weird malformed snout thingy. Is Thog just a fully grown whatever? If we're accepting Muppets from space as canon, however, then that means Gonzo is in fact some kind of extraterrestrial life form. However, the only Gonzo-type creatures we see in that movie all look exactly like Gonzo himself, which casts doubt upon that theory. Perhaps, then, Thogs are a type of Gonzominid, a type of fauna from the same planet that shares a convergent evolutionary clade with Gonzo. Perhaps Thog is to Gonzo as orangutan is to human. Or maybe, due to their size, Thogs serve as brood mothers for the Gonzo species. Could Gonzo be the spawn of Thog? At the very least, we know that much is unlikely because... Did you know that Thog has only been kissed once in his life? It was by Mia Farrow, though, so that's a pretty good kiss if you're only going to have the one.
Did you know that?
Thog is canonically into BDSM. Hey, the world is a rich tapestry, my friends. It takes all kinds, and this fun fact kind of takes some explaining, so here goes. In Season 1, Episode 10 of The Muppet Show, there's a sketch where special guest Harvey Korman is playing one of those classic circus lion tamer types, known for abusing their animals and cracking their whips all the time. He warns the audience that he has in captivity a beast more terrifying than any known to man, and urges them to be very quiet lest they provoke its wrath. And then, out from the cage, obviously lumbers the lovable and docile Thog. So Korman starts cracking his whip around, yelling at Thog to stay away from him, calling him a foul beast, all that sort of stuff, you know. And then he gets just a little too close with one of those whip cracks, and Thog, in his scratchy Jerry Nelson voice, goes,
You're very good with that whip, Morris.
And I don't know about you, but it kind of sounds like he's a little too into it, you know? So maybe the whole, like, beast tamer thing was just, like, some consensual pet play. Hey, again, I don't judge or kink shame. You know, good for you, Thog. You do you. So, you know, if you didn't know that...
Now you know!
Where was I going with this? Wasn't the framing device of this video supposed to be about the most important Muppet of all time? I don't know. This show's gone completely off the rails anyways. I wish I could explain or articulate or intellectualize why I like Thog so much. But I can't. The best I can do is say that I just think he's neat. Because he is. He doesn't have the most points of articulation of any Muppet, or the most memorable moments, but he can do this funny thing where he goes all cross-eyed and his ears flap up and down, and that's enough for me. Thog, to me, is the epitome of what it means to be a Muppet, because he perfectly exemplifies the unhinged humor and uninhibited creativity that Henson and his friends always delighted in sharing with the world. This little napkin doodle of a big blue bird monster thingy with no actual basis in reality was whipped up on a whim by Jim and so lovingly rendered by the puppet builders in his workshop that the love they felt for this goofy fella has endured across decades, even to the extent that his massive puppet body was rebuilt from scratch solely for the sake of a 7-second segment in the Muppet Show intro. That's how much these puppeteers care about and love the thing they do. Thog represents the possibility of falling down a rabbit hole and delving into the delightfully eccentric designs and characters that occupy even the background of the Muppets world, because every character is crafted and performed by hand. Each and every Muppet is someone's baby and brainchild. All of these weird, wonderful, fascinating little felt creatures have their own origin stories, have had life breathed into them by the hands from above that toiled over their creation, and the hands from below that ached to give them their voices. Thog, in his time, was an important Muppet, or as important as a Muppet can be, anyways. And even if he's faded into the background as a one-note big guy, even if he's just relegated to the intro forever, he proves that every Muppet is someone's favorite Muppet. In a completely handcrafted world, no character can ever be truly insignificant. That's the very thing that made us all fall in love with the Muppets in the first place, so clearly a reflection of their creators, and it's that burning spark of pure, unbridled joy, whimsy, and creativity that Thog effortlessly embodies. Through the interwoven stories of their creators and their creations, the Muppets have taken on a life of their own, and no part of that story is too small to tell or to love. Because Thog care. Thog do care. Thog care them all. So, in conclusion, the only way to ensure that the Muppet Show revival gets picked up for a new season is if we guarantee that there's more Thog in all these subsequent episodes, I guess. The time is right and the world is officially ready for Thogomania once again. We were robbed of a Sabrina Carpenter Thog dance number, by the way. Thog dancing used to be a rite of passage for every major superstar. She's in the market for a tall, plain boyfriend, right? Well, Thog is 12 feet tall. Surely that has to fit the bill. I bet he would have been a good sport if she whacked him on the head with a breakaway plate during Man-Child, too. Plus, being a literal man-child is like his whole thing. It's like the defining cornerstone of his character. That would have been the perfect spot for a Thog cameo.
You're very good with that whip, Morris.
Oh, that's all right. I love a kink.
But I digress. I'm Frostbyte Freeman, and until next time, stay frosty.